So it's really, becoming a delegate or an alternate is just, like I said, either a lot of years of hard work, going in, meeting people, knowing the people, building relationships, getting them to vote for you, or maybe just being in the right place at the right time. I don't know, but the experience itself was fantastic. Um, expensive, very expensive to go. They told us beforehand that it would be an expensive trip, so that was one of the reasons we were really just almost didn't go because of the expense. I mean, it was probably somewhere around $4,000 just for the week. Very expensive hotels.
You drank that much?
Yeah, I know all that was free. Anything, that the food was not a big expense, but the hotel. Of course, they treat your delegates, so you're basically treated like. There's 40 delegates from Arkansas. There was 40 alternates. Doug got elected as an alternate, so he got to be really involved in it. When you go in, as a delegate, like I said, you're treated very, very well. The hotel, the people in Cleveland, I was so shocked because, we're used to Southern hospitality down here, and everybody's very nice. But the further north you go, normally it's not that way. But I don't know if they had, over the years that they've been building up for this thing, getting ready for it, they have really trying to build Cleveland up. Everybody from the busboy in the hotels, the security people, you did not meet one person that was not just super friendly. I mean, everywhere you go, and if you just spoke to somebody, hey, how are you? Just even the night we checked into our hotel, there was a group of Black Lives Matters people that were staying in the hotel with us. But we would meet them in the hall. They had their shirts on their thing, and we'd speak that. Well, hey, how are you? I mean, just as friendly, So I kind of compared it to the cartoon with the the sheepdog and the coyote or whatever. They were big buddies, and they clocked in and went out the door, and they were enemies. So that's kind of how it felt like that. And I don't know if you guys can see, but I just got. Of course, they had this thing at the Quickens Loans Arena, which is right next door to the baseball stadium where the Cleveland Indians play. So, everything there, they just had the great big signs up and everything like that. So, they took us out, the first we got there on Friday, and so they had an event Friday night and Saturday night. They would have these big tour buses, and they would pull right up to the front door of the hotel, and we had to have credentials. We had to have passes, and so we wore something around our neck at all times. You had to have, this was like what we call our purple bus pass, so you had to have this on to get on our bus. And then if they had an event or something, they would give you a badge. This here was our lanyard for the our credentials that we wore to the thing. And I didn't know till the last night, but that was kind of the big thing. Every state, you would want to take a handful of buttons, like the Arkansas button. And I didn't know going up there that I should have done this, because every state they swap with you. So the other delegates, you walk around and they'll swap pins with you. So I actually didn't even get very many on mine, but there were some people that just had just tremendous amounts of them. So that was kind of cool. But you wore this, like I said, and then we had this were our credentials. So mine said delegate, Doug said alternate. Now, if you were a delegate, you could go anywhere in that whole thing. They had the floor. The next level up was for the alternates, and you had guests up on the top. The delegate could go anywhere they wanted to, but you had to have this to get on the floor. Now, the alternates, they could go in the section above or anywhere else, but they couldn't come down on the floor. But the cool thing about it is we could swap them. So if, like Doug being an alternate, each of us were paired with an alternate. So my alternate was a lady from Jacksonville. Doug was actually an alternate to Lisa in Rockefeller. We thought that was kind of cool, So she could have bought the arena. But anyway, if she was, she could call Doug up and say, "Hey, you want to come on the floor?" And he could swap badges, and he could come down there. And so we tried to swap out with our alternates and let them come down and have the experience too. But like I said, you didn't go anywhere without credentials. The security, we'll talk about that in a minute. But Friday and Saturday night, they took us out. They took us to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They took us to, that was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame here. It was outside. I wish I had a bigger screen to show you guys these pictures. It was phenomenal. Fireworks show, I mean, they just, like I said, it was just crazy the stuff they did for us. This fireworks show was out over Lake Erie, lasted for 20 minutes. It was just huge. I got to be an astronaut. They took us to the science museum. The entertainment, I mean, everywhere you go, they would have bands playing and people just entertaining.
3 Dog Night.
Yeah, just, yeah. Kid Rock, Chris Jansen, Leonard Skinner, I mean, just all these bands that would be around. Now, this Saturday night, they took us to, and each delegation got to do special things. Like, we were the only delegation that got to go here, but this was the Severance Hall, which is they said it's only second to the New York Symphony. So we got to go in there. And when you got inside, like I said, the pictures I got of it, but it was just phenomenal, beautiful. And they had this organ on the stage up there, and that thing was, it ain't telling how big it was. But we got our own private concert. This guy played, come out and played for probably 20, 30 minutes. So that was really a neat thing. The sound was just phenomenal in there. So really, really enjoyed that.
But the Rockefellers put a lot of money into all that. That's
Yeah. You know, Cleveland, that was the, you know, it used to be the steel capital, I guess, or not the steel capital, but the steel mines, the Rockefellers, that Euclid Avenue that runs through Cleveland, they took us down that, and they said at one time there were over 100 mansions just in that one area, you know, the Rockefellers and things like that. That's where they all live. So I've got this here, they took us to it's called Lakeview Cemetery. And that's where Rockefeller is actually buried. But right next to his grave is this big, huge, looks like a mausoleum thing. I don't know what they call it, but this huge, gorgeous building. And this is where James Garfield, the president, Garfield, he is the only president still to be laid in state. So we got to go inside here, and when you went in, went down these stairs, and the coffins were laying there, and with the flag draped on them and everything. So that was kind of cool, you know, to know that he's the only. Him and his wife were still laid there in state. So that was Rockefeller. Of course, that thing's so tall you couldn't even see the top of it, but that's where he was buried right next to it. And like I said, Lisa Ann Rockefeller, and then her son Will Rockefeller, they were both delegates. So they had a little special ceremony out there for them, just in honor of J.D. Rockefeller. So. Let's see. Then at that night they took us to a dinner, and they had this carousel, and it's refurbished. It's an old carousel, and it's in this big glass room. And they opened that up for us, and we just got to ride, and that was so fun. Just got to play. You got to see a lot of people. This is Representative Rick Crawford. He's from the 1st District, and I've never got to meet him. All these years I've been in this, he's the only one that I've never met. Well, he has a band, and they were opening for Leonard Skinner. And something happened they didn't get to, so they set them up in this place. But anyway, one of the best bands I've ever heard. Fantastic. So I went up and got to talk to him. You would meet the neatest people. Y'all have probably seen this. Like I said, I know on Facebook. But that was Judge Janine Pirro off of Fox News. She was actually staying in the hotel there where we were staying. And it was a lot of fun seeing her. She looks nothing like she does on TV.
Great.
Of course, Tom Cotton. He's always fun to see Tom. Doug was so excited. I don't know if y'all know who this guy is, but he's an actor, Robert Davey. Mm-hmm. And Doug seen him walking. You would see everybody. I mean, you would just see stars, and especially news people and stuff like that. But Doug seen him, and he actually chased him down and told him he was a big fan. And the guy said, "Well, here, let's get a picture," you know. So that was kind of a cool thing for Doug. Tim Griffin, he was there, and Craig and Laura, Kim, and Nikki. Craig is our treasurer. They're from Cleveland. So Craig had asked me back several months ago when I first got elected. He said, if there's any way you can get me guest passes, he said, my mom and dad still live up there. We would love to go and be there the whole time. And I told myself, I doubt I can, but we'll see. Well, when Doug actually ended up getting elected as alternate, that gave us 2 passes. So they used our passes, and they drove up. So they got to go, and they really enjoyed it. And this was one of the highlights. Got to meet Marcus Luttrell, a lone survivor guy. He gave his speech on that Monday night, and probably the best one I've heard out of the whole the 3 nights or 4 nights, whatever. And we were just, went early the next day, we were sitting there and he just walked by, and of course I did, I jumped up and went, so nice, you know, and one of the questions that I asked him, because I thought it was kind of interesting, that night they were actually gonna open the session with a Muslim prayer. Really shocked a lot of people. And I asked him what he thought of that. I said, what do you think about them opening tonight's session in a Muslim prayer? And he said, the Muslims saved my life. And he said, they're, and of course y'all, I don't know if y'all are familiar with his story, you know, but they did if you watched the movie. But he told me, he said, you know, he said, they're a good people. And he said, they've just been hijacked. They're, you know, they've just been, you know, they're being used or whatever, but very, very friendly, so polite. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Just a super nice guy. So, security, unbelievable. You would see policemen on horses, walking, marching, everywhere. And anytime they would go by, everybody would just stop and cheer. So everybody was very nice to them. I mean, we never saw one riot, nothing. We never saw any of it, you know, no protest or anything. Now, I'm sure there were some, but they kept us away from all that. We didn't see any of that. This was Rick Perry and Marcus Luttrell just standing out there talking to some of the policemen, you know, just, that was kind of a cool deal. Like I said, and there would be, when they picked us up on the bus, they would have a whole lane of, one whole side of the freeway shut down. And they would take us through there, and there would be on our bus, on every bus we got on, there would be either a Secret Service or a Homeland Security person, and they would.
Tack gear, full, yeah.
Full tack gear. And before they turned off the freeway to let us in the thing, the bus had to stop, and he would have to flash them something to let them know everything's okay. And then they would take us through there, and then they would, the security, like I said, it was just unbelievable. I mean, they took us through, and once you got off the bus, you went right into a tent, and it would be like a TSA thing. They gave all of us these clear bags, and that's what we would keep our stuff in. But when you went in, you had to have it open. They would turn your phone on. They would look at everything you had. You would go through the metal detectors. But once you went inside, there was gates, the big gates all the way around the whole thing. So once you got inside, you were, you know, done with security. Between the Quickens Lawn Arena and the Cleveland Indians ball field, they had all this stuff set up out there. There was food, music, so you could get out there and just walk around, and that was a lot of fun. You seen everything. Planes flying around. There said Hillary for prison 2016. That would just fly around the whole time you were there. This is what it looked like when we walked in the very first day. We walked in on the top, and that was the state of what we saw. Like I said, that's how it looked from the top of there. And I'll show you where. This was where Doug sat. So I was going to take my bearings on this. Doug set up on the level, like I said, next to me, and he was all the way across the arena. So he sat up here. Well, my seat was right in front of the Texas delegation. So, like I said, you can't see, but I'm back there down on the floor. But the people, it was very colorful. Like I said, the Texas delegation, they sat right behind me. So all during the night, my phone was just blowing up. I see you on TV. I see you, because I was sitting, you know, they showed Texas a lot. You know, they always wore the hats and the shirts. So, and this was a Greta Van Susteren show. Somebody sent this to me, and that was me right there. I was on Greta. That was kind of cool. And when Trump come in that night, he probably was 150 feet. That was him and his family. For me, from where we were sitting, we were really close.
Diane, was the stadium full?
Mm-hmm. You know, now that first night, that first session, you know, they had 5 sessions, one during the day, the rest of them were at night. It was full. I don't know.
If the stands wasn't full, the walkway or whatever, it packed all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you couldn't walk through there, you know, so if they all sat down, it would be packed full, but a lot of times, you know,
a lot of people, like for instance Craig and Laura, they were our guests, but they were up in the nosebleed section. Well, she had vertigo really bad, so they couldn't really stay up there, and so they walked in the hall a lot of times. But yeah, I would say every night it got to be more and more, you know, and of course by that final night you could, you know, no seats at all, but it was very packed, a lot of people.
They were showing how empty the Democratic convention was.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And they were trying to make it look full so they'd focus in, but somebody was sending pictures of the rest
I
of it.
seen a tweet or something on Facebook where they was advertising they gonna pay people $50 to come in and sit in there.
Yeah,
You know, they would have to buy people to come in there and
they
sit.
paid for most of them people.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's great.
Pay for protesters and everything.
Yeah.
I thought this was really neat too. I just happened to look up and they were showing, scrolling names of Republicans from all across the country that had been, had died this past year. And this were, just, they do memorials every year, even at the state convention. People in Arkansas that have been big in the Republican Party. And when I looked up, I saw this Leland Bryant from Arkansas. Well, he's from Warren, known him all my life. He died last year. So I was glad I got a picture of that. I thought that was kind of cool, that was the stage, and like I said, it was just right there. We were just sitting right there at the stage. That was looking up the balloons. That was kind of a neat thing. Doug got to come down on the floor. Like I said, he sat down there by me for a little bit that night. And like I said, it's a different experience. Doug had the better seat as far as the view, seeing things.
See a lot better.
But just being down on the floor, I thought this was neat too. These are the people that I sit next to, and they're all from Southeast Arkansas. His name is J.D. McGee. He's actually from McGee, but he works for Bruce Westerman, and he lives in Hot Springs now. Her name is Sarah Dunklin, and she is the new county chairman in McGee, DeShay County. They've started their Republican Party over there. Her name is Patricia Nation, and she's an attorney in Little Rock, but she's from Dumas. So we were all from Southeast Arkansas. Like I said, that was kind of an interesting deal right there all from Southeast Arkansas getting to be delegates or alternates or something right there on the floor. So that was when Arkansas did their, each state gets up and tells how many delegates. Trump did not get all, we have 40 delegates, but he did not get but 31, I think, or 31, I think, or 38. I can't remember the number, but no, 31, because Cruz did not release his delegates. So he got all but the Cruz delegates. That was my highlight of my whole trip. I got to go see Ted Cruz. Of course, y'all know I was a Cruz delegate. So he had an event for us Tuesday or Wednesday out there on the water. It was just a neat thing. And so afterward, everybody got to go up and visit with him for a little bit. So that was about the highlight of my experience trip, getting to actually see him and very emotional time. It was kind of cool with some of the stories. Like I said, behind the scenes. I tell people nothing wrong, not talking about the media, but yeah. I'm telling you, everything you see on TV, everything you see is staged. Everything from all the whole convention, they tell you and show you what they want you to see and what they want you to hear. They were making a big deal out of out of the dump Trump. They were saying, when we first met that first Monday, we had an afternoon session, and that's when we did all our votes. And they made a big deal out of saying that it was a dump Trump movement, that the delegates were trying to take the convention over and but that was nothing to do with that. It was about trying to bring the power back down to the delegates, So that was kind of a sad deal to me that, the media made it into some big thing. It was not. I mean, it was never about keeping Trump from winning the nomination. It was about trying to bring the power from the top of the party back down to the people. So, like I said, that was that's a whole nother story in itself on all that. But like I said, the experience in itself was just phenomenal. Probably my first and last convention to ever go to. Again, kind of disappointed in the way, the delegates, they're the only ones that are supposed to be able to vote for anything. But when they brought the votes to the floor, they voted on this issue twice on bringing the rules and getting the thing back to the people. Both times it passed, but they didn't let us have it. But they also let the whole thing, everybody in the whole room screaming. So it wasn't just the delegate. Very unfair, I thought, but anyway, it's just like anything else, it's all about power and keeping the power up there or whatever. But like I said, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad we went. I'm so glad to get home. We could not wait to get home. We are
15-hour drive.
15-hour drive, and we very little sleep that whole week. But we left that day, man. We drove, so we didn't get home at 4 o'clock in the morning. Coming home because we were so ready to get home. As much as I was Southeast Arkansas, I'm home here, and like I said, I'm not a big traveler. These were they gave us, we didn't wear these are more commemorative, but they have like, this was for the delegate and the alternate, just commemorative. They didn't mean anything, you could wear them if you wanted to, but I thought that was kind of pretty, kind of a neat little souvenir. Other than that, it was just, like I said, we voted on the platform, 2016 platform, and surprisingly, this year they come out with a pretty conservative platform. That was kind of a surprise to everybody. The rules was the thing that we voted on. They spent so much money. This was in the temporary rules, and then if we voted, then they give you a permanent one, but the roll was it's got all the delegates listed in there and everything. The rules, this is what I was gonna say, this is what we voted on, that they, because like I said, the delegates, there was a big movement to get the power back down to the delegates, from the top of the party. And that's what, it kind of got crazy. I mean, everybody in there was screaming. I had walked away from our delegation. I was kind of over behind somebody else, and I mean, these people were fighting mad. I mean, it got a little hairy there for about an hour. Like I said, but then they dismissed us, and by the time everybody got back 4 hours later, everybody kind of calmed down. But anyway, it was
unheard of to have like, what was it, 4 speakers that we had from Arkansas, at the National Convention, that was kind of a big thing,
The only way up, he didn't keep the convention off, but he was on the credentials committee, so he got to do the first report. So he was up there, and then Asa was up there, and Leslie Rutledge, Womack, Tom Cotton.
Yeah.
So there was quite a few Arkansas people that never have had before that they got to be on the stage. So, like I said, you just seen a lot of things, a lot of people, but everybody was extremely nice. And I just have to say the only ugliness that we saw was from some of the Trump people. I mean, the Trump, he had whips on the floor, what they call whips. People trying to, kind of
whip you.
Yeah, whip you and just, boo here, so, and then, of course, I know y'all all probably watched, and Ted Cruz, the night he spoke, they made such a big deal out of that, but it was nothing on TV like Walt Hurley. They did not boo him off the stage. He gave one of the most unifying speeches ever, and everybody in that whole place was just on their feet, clapping, and it just all was kind of like I said, staged. I think it ended kind of bad, but I think all that was kind of planned. So, anyway, it is what it is. We have a nominee. We'll see what happens from here on out. But
I was impressed with the security. I guarantee you that was to pull that off. They said that they ran the security, the way the Secret Service ran the security there was just like at a presidential inauguration. Said it's the same.
Yeah.
They ran it the same way they would in a presidential inauguration. It was tight. We felt safe everywhere. Never seen any protesters. They were so far away from us. We never saw them, when we were going there and coming from us.
Well, they could use some of that at the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Well, now they did tell us not to get out. They said, you don't really want to get out, especially don't wear your credentials if you're outside of what they call the bubble, And the only time we went out was, we actually went out twice. We went to Walmart, us and another couple. And this Walmart was probably 7 or 8 miles from our hotel. But even in there, the people, we would talk, and they would say, "Are y'all here for the convention yet?" "Oh," and they would just be so nice, no hatefulness or nothing. And then when we went to that cruise event, we got to Uber. We'd never done that. So they picked us up, took us over there. And the funniest thing we saw was when we pulled up, we got out of our car, and we were walking, the line was kind of long. And there was a little car pulled up in front of us, like a hatchback. And 4 people get out of it, and then they walk around, and they open the hatchback, and a little guy in a seat gets out. Yeah. And we're like, "Hey," or something, start talking to him, and they said, "Yeah, he's a state rep. He was from Texas." And they didn't have anyone from state, so he got in the trunk, I said, "We actually treat ours a little better than y'all in Texas, So that was kind of neat, but he was real nice, and he was like, "Yeah, I want to get here, and I needed a ride, so I'm getting in the trunk." So like I said, it was fun. It was a great experience. I'm glad I went. I would have told you a week before we left that I wouldn't go. I never, up until a week before we finally made our mind up that I wasn't gonna go, but we're glad we did. Like I said, we had a great time and quite an experience to be part of something like that, you know. And
Going from the motel or the hotel, you know, to the stadium, to the security, you know, that's what blows my mind. You know, like I said, they cordoned off our area, you know, of the, just for our bus, you know, and there was certain times that our buses come through, either going or leaving. Went by one time there, and they had it was like a fuel tanker was coming through. They just had that joker stop. Had the dude, he was sitting there like you know. I mean, the cop cars, you know, they wouldn't even let anything like that even drive out there when we were anywhere around.
It had to have been told that was gonna be blocked off from time to time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, but I mean, they didn't take any chances.
They started planning this thing 2 years ago, and it takes that long to pull something like this off, because, you know, there was, hotels were booked all the way up 50, 60 miles outside of Cleveland. And we actually had some other people that were talking about going up there, but they were calling, rooms were like $700 a night, 50 miles away. So, I mean, it was so, you know, like I said, and they had them scattered, people scattered all over town, so, in hotels, and then the buses, I mean, it would take, there was, in our hotel, it was us and Illinois. They had, Arkansas and Illinois delegation stayed in our hotel. So it would take probably, I don't know, 5 of those great big Greyhound buses to pick all the people up and take them and transport them back and forth. And
how far out did you make your reservations for your hotel?
Well, they actually made all that through the RPA. You know, once we, you know, they gave us a date. They said you got to decide here if you're going to go. And actually, the day of the thing, I called and told them I wasn't going to go. I mean, this is how we did not want to go. I'm telling y'all. I called them and I told the girl that I talked to. I said, we just decided we're not going to go. And I said, I want to let y'all know now and all that. So it wasn't 5 minutes later, my phone rings and it's Bill Webb, you know, and he's like, Diana, you've got to go. And of course, me being the big baby I am, I just busted out crying. I'm like, oh, I don't, you know, and I'm just blubbering. He's like, I know. He said, I know it's expensive. I know. He said, but he said, I promise you, he said, it's the experience you'll never forget. So he said, go ahead and take a few more days, think about it and everything. So it really put me through a lot of turmoil. Just like I said, I'm not a big traveler. I mean, anymore, we like to be home. Plus, we didn't, the violence, we didn't know what to expect. You know, we just didn't know. And of course, y'all all know I was a cruise supporter. It was just a big turmoil for me, you know, to be, but like I said, now that we've gone and experienced it, we're really glad we went.
How did you find the people from Illinois?
They weren't as friendly as the Arkansas people. The hotel people said, we love Arkansas. Yeah, they just weren't as, you know, we'd walk up, I mean, everybody was friendly, but when you walked up, they weren't outgoing, you know, I mean, Arkansas people, yeah, we would go and, you know, we're talking to everybody, you know, hey, how are you? And you would actually have to go and start conversations with them. They weren't,
they're almost like New Yorkers in a way.
Yeah.
They don't like to be talked to.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
But it was, like I said, it was good. We're just hanging on now to see what happens next. It's gonna be a long 3 months or 4, how long, 90-something days. So.
Hopefully the Congress will indict her for perjury.
We can hope.
They'll pardon her.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. And there are, they do have, you know, Trump signs. I had several people call me and ask me about them. And the only thing I need to do is tell people to order them, because, you know, we have not seen, but they did send me a thing this week and said that they are getting a whole bunch of them in Little Rock, so we'll end up getting
I'm ordering some. I gotta go get them.
Yeah, like I said, that's usually the easiest way to tell people just to order them off the internet. Yeah, from, you go to his website or order them, but they've got some, we just gotta get there and get them and all that stuff. But anyway,
Used to, it's been different on that this year. You know, they always have somebody bringing them around, you know, getting them to us and everything.
Yeah, usually you have to beat people up to get them.
Yeah, but now it's different this year. Like they want everybody to buy them more than get them for free.
Well, I think it's just because he's running a different kind of campaign, you know, the money, he didn't take donations like the others do, so they're, you know, I don't know what the.
Looks like that would free up more money for him to put out marketing stuff.
And it may be, that may be why they're calling me now saying that they've got signed, you know, I don't know, but. Like I said, it was a, yeah. Appreciate you coming. We gonna pick up my supper.
I would stay for the other, but I got things to do.
Have a good day.